There's a white powder sitting on a shelf at your local hardware store right now. It costs less than $1 per use. It kills every insect that walks through it, permanently. Not for a season, not until the rain comes, permanently. And the pest control industry has never once mentioned it to you. Not in a flyer, not on a website, not when their technician walked through your home with a spray canister that cost them 40 cents to fill and billed you $60 to empty. You have probably suspected that something was off. You pay for pest control, the bugs come back, you pay again, they come back again. That cycle is not a coincidence, it is a business model. Stay with me, because what happened in the mid-1960s, and what a specific segment of the chemical industry spent decades making sure you never heard about, is the part even most exterminators were never taught. The pest control industry in the United States generates $22 billion every year, not globally, in one country, per year. Here is the detail buried quietly inside their own revenue reports. The most effective insect killer on Earth does not require a license to buy. It does not require a professional to apply. It does not expire. It does not wash out of most dry indoor surfaces, and it costs almost nothing. $22 billion does not survive a $1 answer. So that answer stayed quiet. It stayed in the agriculture section of the hardware store in a plain white bag with no advertising budget and no television commercial, while the industry built a machine that charges you monthly, quarterly, annually for a problem that one cheap powder can solve once and leave solved. They did not bury this because it failed. They buried it because it worked too well for anyone to own it, bottle it, or charge you a service fee to reapply it. You cannot patent a rock. You cannot trademark a fossil. You cannot invoice a geological deposit that has been sitting in the ground for 30 million years, waiting to be scooped into a bag and sold for $8. Your pest control company has never once mentioned this to you. Not in an email, not on a bill, not once. That silence is not an accident. That silence is a business model. The science behind this is even more damaging to their revenue than the story of how they buried it. That is what comes next. This is not a new invention. I'm not going to tell you someone discovered this last year in a laboratory. Ancient Egyptian grain workers packed their storage pits with a pale, chalky earth thousands of years before anyone had a scientific word for what it was doing. The grain stayed untouched through dry seasons. The insects died. The harvest made it to the next planting cycle. Roman military engineers used the same material in their grain, holds on long campaign marches, full supply lines, almost no spoilage, army-fed. In 1836, a German farmer named Peter Kasten was digging near the town of Lüneburg and hit a large deposit of the stuff. He thought he had found chalk. He filed for a mining permit. He became the first person in modern recorded history to extract it commercially, though he had no idea yet what it was truly capable of. The reason it worked for those civilizations then is the same reason it works now, and it is something you have already touched today without knowing it. Stay with me, and I will show you exactly where. You have seen this your whole life and just never connected the dots. You know how a paper cut feels like almost nothing when it happens, but the thin edge of that paper actually destroyed thousands of tiny structures in your skin. That is the scale of what we are talking about here. You know how talcum powder dries your hands out almost instantly? That is the mechanism we are watching. This powder is made from the crushed shells of microscopic creatures that lived in ancient lakes and oceans. Those shells are covered in edges so sharp they are invisible to the naked eye. When an insect walks through this powder, those edges slice through the waxy coating on its body. That coating is the only thing keeping the insect from drying out from the inside. Once it is gone, the insect dehydrates. It does not matter how chemically resistant the insect is. It does not matter how many generations of roaches have built up immunity to your spray. They cannot evolve a response to physics. There is no genetic adaptation that grows a new waterproof coat fast enough. The powder just keeps working. That detail, no resistance possible, is the one worth holding on to. Most people who try this get one step wrong. It is not the powder itself. It is not the location. It is one decision made in the first 60 seconds of setup. It is the difference between, do you trust your tap water? The government and water companies are leaving dangerous toxins behind. Independent studies show chemicals they aren't even testing for. Your health is in your hands, not theirs. Stop paying for poisoned water. My guide reveals a $1 method to get 100% pure water at home. Scan the QR code or click the link below to get your free copy now. Something that works for years and something that does nothing at all. Here is what you need. I want to be honest with you about every number. Food grade diatomaceous earth. $8 for a 4-pound bag at any hardware store or farm supply store. That bag covers your entire home, your garage, your baseboards, and still leaves enough for a second full pass. Per treatment, you're spending under $1. A small squeeze bottle with a pointed tip or an old cleaned ketchup bottle, $1. Maybe free if you have one in the recycling bin right now. A dust mask, if you already own one, that is free. If not, $2 at any hardware store. The powder is physically harmless in small amounts, but any fine dry dust in large quantities near your nose for 20 minutes is not a good idea. Wear the mask. It costs $2. That is genuinely it. No subscription, no return visits scheduled in your calendar, no professional license, no mixing ratios, no expiration date printed on the bag, no storage warnings. The total cost of protecting your home from insects permanently, under $12 once. Here's the one thing most people get wrong. They apply it wet. They mix it with water, thinking it will spread more evenly. They spray it on like a liquid pesticide, and when it dries, it looks like it worked. The white powder is there, visible on the baseboard. It looks correct. But the microscopic edges that do all the actual work have been blunted by the moisture. They fuse together during drying. The cutting surface is gone. The powder is sitting there doing absolutely nothing. Think about it this way. You know how a new razor blade glides clean and effortless the first time you use it? Now imagine soaking that razor in water for an hour and letting it air dry. It looks the same, but the edge is different now. Something happened to it at a level you cannot see. That is exactly what wet application does to this powder. It must go on dry. Always dry. That is the rule. The first step is locating your application points. You're not covering the open floor in the middle of the room. Insects do not like open space. They move along walls. They move along the backs of cabinet interiors. They move along the seam where your baseboard meets the floor. They move under the refrigerator, behind the stove, in the gap under the sink where the drain pipe passes through the cabinet floor. Those edges are your target. Before you apply anything, get down low and look at those edges in low light. A flashlight tilted at an angle helps. You're looking for dark streaks, grease marks along the baseboard, tiny dark specks near a cabinet corner, any sign of regular insect traffic. Mark those spots. That is where your powder goes. Now load your squeeze bottle with dry powder. You want a layer so thin it almost disappears. If you can see a visible white pile, you have used too much. You want to find dusting. Think of the way flour settles when you tap a sieve over a counter. That thin, that even. That is the application that works. A heavy pile just gets walked around. A thin dusting cannot be avoided. What comes next is the step most people skip. It is the only one that makes everything before it permanent. Pay close attention, the entry points. Every insect coming from outside your home uses one of a small number of fixed routes. Gaps around pipes entering through walls, the space under exterior door frames, cracks where your foundation meets your interior wall, the utility chase behind your washing machine, the channel under the kitchen sink where the drain pipe disappears into the cabinet floor. These are not random entry points. Insects find them the same way water finds the lowest point of a sloped surface. Every time, without variation. Dust all of those points. Push the tip of the squeeze bottle into any gap you can reach. One short press. You want the powder settling inside the gap, not piling on the outer edge. Inside, where they have to walk through it to enter. If you are dealing with ants specifically, follow the line. Ants do not scout randomly. They walk a chemical trail laid down by the first ant that found your kitchen. Find the trail. It is usually a thin moving line along a baseboard or counter edge, and apply a thin dusting across it in 3 or 4 places along the route. You are not trying to wall them out. You're quietly lining the road they are already using. For roaches, the back corners of cabinet interiors are your first priority. The area below the sink, the narrow gap between the bottom of your refrigerator and the floor. Roaches do not cross open space unless they are extremely hungry. They press against surfaces as they move. Put the powder where 2 surfaces meet, the corner, the seam, the gap behind the stove. For fleas, the powder goes into carpet and fabric upholstery. Work it in with a stiff brush. Leave it for at least 4 hours. Overnight is better, then vacuum. The eggs and larvae already in the carpet die on contact with the powder. The adults die when they walk through it. Repeat this 2 weeks after the first application. That second pass catches everything that hatched after your first treatment. 2 passes, and you have broken the flea cycle completely. Bedbugs require patience more than anything else. Apply the powder along every visible seam of your mattress, the interior of your bed frame, the cracks and joints in any nearby furniture. Do not disturb it once it is down. Leave it for 2 full weeks. The powder does not need to be visible to be working. It only needs to be present when the insect moves through that space. The test for a correct application is simple and requires nothing except your hand. Run 1 finger lightly across a treated baseboard 12 hours after you apply. You should feel the faintest silkiness, like the surface has been polished very slightly. If you feel gritty piles under your finger, you use too much. If you feel nothing at all, either you applied too little or something has displaced it. That silky feeling means the powder is still in place, still working. Now think about what this means past your own front door. 1 application in the right spots lasts for months anywhere that stays dry. Indoors, behind baseboards, in cabinet interiors, inside wall gaps, those spots stay dry for years. The powder sits there, undisturbed, working every single day without you thinking about it once. Every insect that walks through a dusted baseboard dies within 48 hours. Not repelled, not driven to another room, dead, one home, under $12, done once. Now consider the numbers past that. A family of 4 in a house with a yard and a garage spends an average of $230 every year on pest control. That is services combined with sprays, traps, and bait stations every year for the entire time they live in that house. Over 10 years, that family spends over $2,000 on something that never fully solves the problem. Because the biology of insects means a chemical spray always has a return visit built in by design. This powder costs that same family $12 once. If one street of 20 homes made this switch, that is a combined saving of over $4,000 a year on a single block. Every year. No scheduled trucks, no quarterly contracts, no chemicals washed into the soil and groundwater by the next rain, no chemical residue on the surfaces where children put their hands and then their faces, no bills, no infrastructure, no asking anyone's permission. One thing worth saying directly before you go try this powder works on every insect with an exoskeleton. That is every insect you are trying to eliminate. Ants, cockroaches, fleas, bedbugs, silverfish, earwigs, beetles, grain weevils, carpet beetles, all of them. It does not work on slugs or snails. They have no exoskeleton to damage. It works less effectively on spiders, though heavy applications do affect them. It performs poorly outdoors in wet or humid climates because rainfall displaces and neutralizes it. If you live somewhere with frequent rain, your indoor applications still work with full effectiveness. Your outdoor perimeter line along the foundation will need reapplying after each significant rainfall. This is also not a contact spray. It does not kill instantly the moment it goes down the way a chemical does. Give it 48 to 72 hours before you make any judgment. Insects need to walk through it. Depending on how active your situation is, you will see a sharp reduction after 3 days and near zero activity after 7 to 10 days. For a serious active infestation, not just occasional scouts, but regular visible activity, do 2 full applications spaced 2 weeks apart. The second pass handles anything that hatched from eggs after your first treatment. 2 passes, and the cycle is broken. There's a grain storage facility in northern Germany first documented in the late 19th century. The workers there used the same pale, chalky earth that Peter Kasten pulled from that deposit near Lüneburg to line the inside walls of their storage bins. Some of those buildings were still standing 100 years later, still functional. The residue of that same pale powder still visible on the inside walls. Nobody paid a monthly service fee to keep the grain safe. The grain was safe because someone understood what the powder was doing, applied it once with care, and let physics do the work. The Egyptian grain pits did the same thing. The Roman supply trains did the same thing. Yours will too. The mechanism was always there, sitting in deposits under the ground, waiting in a plain unlabeled bag on a low shelf in the farm supply section, where most people never think to look. I do not know what brought you here today. Maybe it was a roach, maybe a flea you found on your dog, maybe a bill from a pest control company that felt like it could not possibly be worth what you paid for what it actually did. It doesn't matter. It works either way.